Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review of a documentary that just came out the last couple weeks, and that is the new documentary called Val, which is made by and starring Val Kilmer. Before going into this review, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey, and also make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with the bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live onto the channel. So I was scouring some of the news stories today, box office related, with the movies coming out, and until we get some of the Thursday numbers tonight for the new movies coming out this week, there's not going to be any official estimates as far as what is likely going to be what the various films coming out this weekend are actually going to make. All I can say is that Free Guy is expected to make around a 50% drop, which, even though that is a relatively good drop in comparison to other films that come out this year, and just in general, because the film cost as much as it did, it is not likely going to change the projections that I'm going to be able to make on that film of it being a box office loser. And again, it really comes down to having not a huge box office compared to non-pandemic times, but then also having these gigantic budgets, which I think at this point for the next few years are going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for some of these films to be able to actually make up. And so with that being said, last night I was finally able to catch this film, again, just simply called Val documentary. And I haven't really done a lot of documentary reviews on the channel before. Typically I review just some of the basic, drama, comedy, action, those kinds of things. And maybe there's been one documentary that I've reviewed in my entire life on this channel. And I will say that I'm incredibly happy for this to be one of the first documentaries that I've reviewed in a very long time. A little thing about me is I'm not the biggest documentary fan. It's not that I hate documentaries. It's just normally, when it comes to documentaries, it always presents itself as trying to give essentially some type of truth or to reveal certain truths, but you can always tell in documentaries that the filmmakers do absolutely have various agendas behind what they are trying to put forward. And so I've always kind of felt them as being a little bit hypocritical, where you have, again, the concept of portraying of truth, but then it doesn't actually live up to it because there is a lot of subjective thought put into it as well. This movie, on the other hand, I really honestly appreciated more because it wasn't trying to spin a narrative. It wasn't trying to give an opinion. It wasn't trying to expose something. It was just Val Kilmer, who has thousands upon thousands of hours of footage from home videos that he's done, from behind the scenes videos that he's done on the sets of various films, which was also a really cool thing to see because there's some high profile actors that he actually has on some of these videos that he shot himself. And it's just him basically telling the story of his life. And it was very interesting because in the end, this film really ends up being, in a lot of ways, almost a love letter to his brother. And one of the things that this film goes into is how he lost his brother when his brother was only about 15 years old, in a pretty horrific fashion. He was in acting school at the time when he found out the news, and it was a situation where it seems to indicate, based on the film, it seems to indicate that it could have been avoided because unfortunately his brother had epileptic seizures, and apparently his father was not very good about keeping up with him on the medication that he was taking. And so that is kind of something that's indicated throughout. But one thing that it also showcases is that even though Val is very clear with the relationship between him and his parents, especially with him and his dad, he still very clearly loves them. He clearly loves his family, just despite the faults, despite the drama. There's a very beautiful love letter to his brother, and it just, again, is very much focused on how creative his brother is. And it's almost like he's trying to say that his brother would have been greater than what he could ever have accomplished. And it's almost as if his career, and this film specifically, is not even just to tell Val's story, but is to actually tell the story of his brother and to show how the creative insights and the creative lens of even this young kid has such a profound impact on Val Kilmer and his career, to the point of it actually influencing him making this movie, but then also the way in which it was put together. Because some of the things that he does is he shows some of the short films and small films that they did as a family when they were younger. It also shows some of the creative minds and the creative ideas that his younger brother had. And I really feel like that artistic take that his younger brother had really does come out to play in this movie too. And so I was really just really impressed by how well he was able to kind of, even though it's called Val and it is very much about him and it does focus a lot on him, how he was also really able to shift the focus, several times to other people and really show and dedicate really kind of a love letter to them. Really, the two loves of his life, or rather the three loves of his life, is acting, but also it's his younger brother and also his mom. There's a lot of really beautiful tributes to his mom and also to his younger brother in this film too. And it is just, there's something about it. And I remember I was asked about this on stream because I'd only seen like the first 5 minutes, and as I was watching it, I'm like, man, my wife really likes documentaries, and I think that, even though she may not know much about Val Kilmer, maybe she would be able to appreciate it, and she thoroughly enjoyed this movie too. It's just incredibly touching. It's incredibly well done. It's incredibly moving. There are a lot of parts of the film where you just, it's like you're getting tugged at the heartstrings. So I think it was a very well-crafted film. The fact that Val Kilmer's son does a lot of the voiceover for the movie is also pretty powerful as well. There's actually a couple of moments where they even go to his son literally in front of the microphone reading the script, and there's a couple of things in there where he reads it, and it's clearly him reading it for the first time, and he says, wait, what? Wait, that happened? And it's just really powerful for that reason. One thing that I would note is that my wife didn't really know a lot about him. Pretty much the only thing that she has seen him in is Top Gun. And so in her mind, all she knows is Iceman. And so when he was showing a lot of these behind the scenes things, she said, you know what? I never realized how funny Val Kilmer is. And I think that really is also something that is shown and is displayed in this movie, is that even though he has recently gone through everything with throat cancer and losing his voice and trying to kind of find his place, because he's someone that was still very much working on the craft of acting. He was still very much passionate about it. He now kind of feels that he's in this position of, I don't know what's going to happen to my voice, if it's ever going to come back to any degree, or, is my career over? And yet, even with all of those negative emotions, which definitely do come out, and there's times when he's very admitting, saying, I feel this way. I know it's not true, but I still feel this way. And you're able to, again, kind of dive into the emotional state of Val, but also he's able to do it in such a way where it's just so funny. There's several scenes also where it's him and his son, and at one point he's dressed up as Batman, and his son's dressed up as Robin. It was just like, it's such a wholesome and just, happy moment in that way, because you're like, even though he's going through and has gone through so many of these various trials, and most especially recently with throat cancer, he still has such an upbeat outlook, and he is still such a goofball. There's a couple of moments where he's just walking down the hall and he's just, doing this, and it's kind of great. And it's not that he's just putting on an act, because if you show, when you look at all of the home videos he's made, that's always how he's been. He's just been this kind of like over the top personality, and always, again, trying to get his creative ideas out. And I think especially the connection that he's able to make with his brother and the creative mindset of his brother kind of influenced. It's almost as if when his brother died, he almost felt like he had to be able to live up to and try and almost bring to life the character of his brother, and to keep that type of mindset and to keep that kind of life, going forward. It reminds me of a friend I lost when I was younger, and I had, again, similar emotions where I was like, I feel like I need to do certain things in my life to be able to kind of honor the life of that person. And it just seems like Val was able to do that a lot with his brother. So overall, I would say, again, I don't really have much context. When I did a lot of my studies, we really didn't focus too much on documentaries, but what I can say is that it's a well-paced movie. Everything does connect to each other. There are different chapters and sections that all seem to make sense, and the actual shooting of the movie is well done, and the storytelling is also well done. And I would say really the only downside or the only negative to the movie, I would say, is probably the ending, where it has one of these endings that I feel, as profound as the movie is from time to time, I was kind of expecting to get punched in the face with a really profound ending. And the ending is still good, and it does, I think, still leave you with things to ponder and to think about when it was over and the credits were rolling. My wife and I were just silent watching it as they were showing some other footage from Val Kilmer's life. But yeah, it's just one of those things where that was like the only negative that I could really think about it. So in the end, I'm going to give this film an A-. I think that it's an enjoyable film. I think whether you know anything about Val Kilmer or not, I think that you could absolutely still enjoy this film, even if you have almost no frame of reference. I will say that you probably will enjoy it a lot more if you do know who Val Kilmer is, and also if you know of the films that he's done and some of the actors that he's worked with as well, because I think it will help give more context and help to explain things. He does go into a little bit about Batman Forever. He also does a little bit of coverage of his time on Top Gun. and a couple other things that he did. And obviously he does also towards the end, and obviously in the beginning too, cover about throat cancer and the things that he's gone through in this way. But I would say it's a good time. It definitely pulls at the heartstrings, and it's an incredibly well done movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So anyway, have you seen the movie Val? If you haven't, I would recommend it. If you like documentaries, I think it is a good one to watch. If you hate documentaries, it might still be one that can kind of get you into it, because maybe you might be a fan of Val Kilmer. I know that after watching this movie, I was all of a sudden, on Amazon and looking at different sites and saying, okay, what are some Val Kilmer movies that I've never seen before that I want to see? Because there's a few that I was just, again, very much pulled into, because he shows different elements of the process of his career as it developed and the roles that he had and kind of his own thinking behind it. He's been very self-critical in his career and some of the career choices that he's made. And also you start to realize a little bit more, especially since Batman Forever might be the one that most people know him for other than Top Gun. You start to realize that he was incredibly isolated during that movie because the batsuit that he wore was made in such a way where he couldn't hear anything. And so essentially the entire movie was, when he was in the batsuit, just him being told where to stand and when to say his line. And basically was not allowed to really do a whole lot because of it, because of limited motion and not even the ability to hear. So I kind of think it adds more context to the performance that we get from Val Kilmer when he is Batman in that movie, and then also just the nature of acting in general. But those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about all of these things in the comment section down below. A huge shout out to Joe Horn, who is a member over on Patreon. I'm going to be able to get you added to one of the videos one day, but as you all know, I have school during the day, and I try and get a video out before leaving. And so thank you again for your time and for your patience, Joe. Appreciate it, man. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. You can find this out over on Amazon. And I'm sure you can find other places for it too. This is a movie that I'd be totally wanting to pick up on Blu-ray to find if there's other behind-the-scenes special features, extra footage, because this dude had, again, thousands of hours of footage, and a lot of it is just incredibly interesting stuff. So anyway, you guys rock. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. Starting off with my Locals crew: Cat's App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And a shout out to one new member, Hannibal Grimm. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribe Star, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my Locals Patreon Subscribe Star. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find, it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all of the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, keep it the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all of that stuff. Plus, in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world. And also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribestar and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout-out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.